Here's another raising children rant. Keep this one shorter. It's about positive reinforcement. I don't know whether you've heard of it or not. Skinner was a doctor who did research on this, and pretty much it comes down to it's whatever you reward a person or a child for, they'll continue to do. And one of the examples is a child that, say, throws a temper tantrum. If a child throws a temper tantrum to get his way, and you deny him his way, eventually he'll stop throwing a temper tantrum. He'll decide that that isn't the way it works. The louder you yell, the more you scream, doesn't get you any closer to what you want. I knew a woman had a daughter, and the daughter used to cry at night, wouldn't go to sleep. And the mother would stay outside and fight it, and finally she'd give in and go inside and see how the daughter was. And what she'd just done is taught the daughter that if she cried and screamed long enough, she'd get what she wants, which is her mother coming in to tell her she didn't have to go to bed yet. Well, the mother obviously thought that this wasn't a good idea, letting the child decide when she was going to bed. So the next time the child cried and ranted and raved, the mother fought it. Well, what the child then decided was that perhaps she hadn't created a big enough fuss. So she'd start screaming and crying and ranting and raving. And eventually the mother would go in, even if it was to tell her to be quiet. But the child got what she wanted. But learned that crying wasn't enough. You had to scream and rant and rave to get what you wanted. Well, the mother soon got tired of going in under those circumstances and stayed out. So then the child cried, and one day she fussed and fumed and screamed and ranted and raved to the point where she actually made herself sick. Threw up a little bit in the bed. And of course the mother had to come in and take care of it. So now the child had learned that if she threw up in her bed at night, if she screamed and ranted and raved and threw up in her bed at night, her mother would come in and she'd get to stay up a little later. So the mother had taught the child not only that ranting and raving gets you what you want, but if you don't get what you want, just escalate it. You can escalate it to the point of where you will get what you want. See little kids throwing temper tantrums in the grocery store or wherever they are, out in public. And the mother's embarrassed and wants the child to stop and doesn't want to be thought of as a bad mother, doesn't want people thinking that her child rants and screams and everything like that, so she's obviously a bad mother. So eventually she'll do something that quiet the child down. Pick it up, give it a piece of candy, give it a cookie, give it the box of cereal that it really wanted, do something like that. And in doing so, it teaches the child that screaming and kicking your feet and having a temper tantrum is the way to get what you want. So you're raising your children, you're teaching them what are the ways to get what you want. You can teach them that ranting and raving and kicking and screaming is the way to get what you want. Or you can teach them that asking nicely and being polite and being good can get you what you want. And you can teach them that you can't always get what you want. That's an important lesson too. Children have to know that there are rules. there are limits, there are regulations, there are things that they are expected to do, and there are things they are expected not to do. And they have to learn what they are. And they have to learn it early. If you let a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old dictate to you what they're going to do next, they will be dictating to you what they're going to do next when they're teenagers. And at that point, what they're going to do next could be a little more dangerous than just staying up late. So you need to tell them early, A, who's in charge, what the pecking order is, who's the alpha animal in the pack, and what they are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. You need to show a little common sense, and you need to be aware of the fact that you are the one that teaches them. You're the one that shows them what the limits are. You're the one that shows them what they have to do. It's not some child just deciding on its own that it's going to push the envelope. It's you letting them push the envelope, or you giving in at some point and rewarding them for pushing the envelope. That's what happens. Short little rant on child rearing and drawing a line in the sand when you have